Yeah, so we got a couple guys here to talk about some interesting stuff today. We're visited by Rick, if you want to say hello to everybody on TikTok.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
And then we have Joe here, if you want to say hi as well.
Hello.
So we also have False, obviously, on the boards, handling all of our IT. I was pretty excited about getting these guys in here today. So we've talked about it a little bit, but for anybody who does not know, CombatFC, new fight promotion, old and new, new name, some experience here. They have their first event coming up, so we were very happy to get them in here to talk a little bit about it. So you guys ready to get started?
Absolutely.
All right. So first of all, I think we have two really different roles here, right? Where Rick is sort of in the nitty gritty of the matchmaking and some of the stuff that me as a fight nerd gets a little more into, right? Yeah. And then we have Joe, which is apparently everybody's favorite guy, right? You seem to be quite famous, not only in the fight game, but just via social media. Everybody seems to be showing you some love. So you have some of the experience with the promotions in the past, correct? Yeah. All right. And that was about how long ago?
We started in 2007. We did 11 events under the name World Championship Fighting, and then we had a trademark issue with it. Somebody actually trademarked the name World Fighting Championship, which is the same exact name. It's just they changed the words, and I had spent the money with the trademark people to make sure that it didn't happen, and I called them and said, or I sent them a letter and said, hey, this, you gave this guy my name, yeah. And they said, let's look into it. We'll get back to you. So they got back to me. They said, yeah, it's definitely your name. This, definitely you should be able to use it. It shouldn't be a problem. And I said, well, let me know when you guys straighten it out. They said, no, you have to bring the guy to court.
Oh, boy.
Why do I have to bring him to court?
Yeah.
I paid you $500 to make sure that this wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we'll back you up if it goes to court. So I wound up calling the guy, kind of explaining the situation to him and saying, I'd love to be able to figure out how we could do this together. I said, I'd be willing to let you guys use the name, even though it's very similar to mine, if you guys would obviously be willing to let us do it. I said, we have the right to it, rather than tie us both up in court and stuff. And the guy said, why don't you just sue us?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes that's the answer. But you know what? I actually think it turned out to be a positive.
Yeah, I think it did.
Because I love the name CombatFC.
Yep.
So for me, it's easier to say, which is always great.
It's less of a mouthful.
Yeah, but also it's like I just think it's clean. Like the original name was great, and I followed you guys a little bit back then. That was in my infancy stages of following MMA, but this name I think grabs a little better.
Yeah,
right?
We're looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. It's kind of a rebrand and relaunch. And, it's tough because we had to get the word back out to all the fighters. Rick and me know everybody. But the problem is the guys that we used to deal with 10 years ago don't fight anymore.
Yeah,
and
40 years old with kids.
Yeah, 40 years old. Everybody's got a couple kids. So we had to reintroduce ourselves to everybody. And one of the things that I'd say when I introduce myself to the kids, I'd say, find the oldest guy in your gym and ask them if they know us.
Exactly, and, right? Well, that's the cool thing about fighting is a lot of these guys, they never really leave, right? There's whether it's they still have a connection at a gym somewhere or, they do some classes, some privates, one-on-one, stuff like that. So I'm sure you guys still had a few connections out there,
Yeah,
right?
thank God. Rick's tight with everybody, so it was, all the old time
Same with
guys.
the guys in the older guys.
Yeah.
There's so many gyms now that pop up that they didn't have fighters, 10, 12 years ago, but, in some of the gyms that used to have tons, they've gone the way of, they're jiu-jitsu only now, right? So, I don't know. It's been interesting.
Well, I think that's one of the coolest things is that, like, where you guys are, and where we're located, it's sort of like a hotbed, right? For whether it's boxing, whether it's MMA, or whether it's something like boxing that's very specialized. Like this is a great area for it, with all these gyms popping up, all these big name fighters that have come out of this area. So yeah, when I heard, I was like, oh, this couldn't be happening in a better place than here. Did any of that factor in? Like, are you guys looking at talent in the area, or are you trying to recruit just as much talent worldwide?
I mean, probably a little of both, right? I mean, it's, part of it why we did it in this area is because we live here, right? So we're not going to, like, New York City would be a cool place for an event, but we live 4 hours from there, right? Yeah. So, but no, I like where our venue is, just north of the city, because there's a lot of guys that, I mean, you throw a rock in Boston and you get hit an MMA gym. Yeah. There's so many of them, right in and around Boston. And a lot of the other events are, an hour south or down in Rhode Island or up in New Hampshire, right, up in Maine. Yep. So I think we're centrally located for the guys that we want to have on our events. So that helps, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
If I'm a fighter that lives in Boston, I'd rather fight 10 minutes north than, 90 minutes north in Maine, right? So
absolutely.
I think it definitely, that's a positive for us, I think. And yeah, we are trying to, as you mentioned, worldwide, we are trying to bring in some guys too, because with the Fight Pass deal that we have, it's not just about selling seats in the venue, right? We have to make sure that people are going to watch it online as well.
Yeah.
And if you're a big fan of Rico DeShulo, you're going to just buy a ticket and go watch him fight.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not going to watch it online. So we do need to bring in some guys from out of state. We initially had a couple guys from outside of the country, and it was going to be, an amazing fight, but one of the guys ran into a visa issue that
get pushed out to October.
Yeah, that can be trouble, especially during right now. That can be trouble. So you mentioned something. You mentioned Fight Pass, which I think is a huge part of what you guys are doing here, because obviously in Boston, you have ties, whether it's to Dana or to other guys who've just come out of this area. But to get on Fight Pass, I think, is huge, and it probably says a lot about what you guys were able to do under the previous banner. Just the visual aspect and the quality, of the fights, and just the quality of the media and stuff there. So how did that come to be? How did you end up on Fight Pass? Is a big deal.
Yeah, we were trying to get a deal with them for years. Since 2006, it was when we first started talking to them about doing something, and it's progressed over the years. We were at one point talking to them about trying to be a minor league for them, and that was back before there used to be other companies, like the IFL was a $150 million publicly traded company.
Yeah,
they called it the International Fight League, and there was Pride Fighting Championship in Japan that was selling out 70,000 seat arenas, and there was
for rigged fights.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, guys. I just got to state that for the record.
Well, there were some tremendous fights. There were a few crazy ones.
There were a few rigged ones, but they did throw on some tremendous events. But a couple of those were iffy.
They were fun to watch. They did that freak show thing where they'd bring in the Aki Bonos and those 600 pounds and have them fight a 170-pound guy. Yeah. That was fun.
There were some great ones, for sure.
Yeah. So we decided to get back into it. I called Dana and said, "Hey, we'd really like to get involved with this." I think we had a track record of putting on some really good fights. I think, not just saying it because he's sitting next to me, I think Rick's one of the best matchmakers in the country. He really matches very even fights, very, very competitive fights, and he gets some local talent, some talent locally that he built into stars.
Yeah.
We had John Jones fight for us. We had Rick Hahn fight for us, who's an Olympian, fought in Bellator for years. A whole bunch of guys. Rick could probably go through the list, but you've had a whole bunch of guys go on and fight in the UFC and all the bigger promotions. So we were doing that before it was kind of cool to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody's trying to do now, and that's really what this Fight Pass deal is about. The UFC said to us, we want more subscriptions, more people to watch the product, right? So more people to buy the UFC Fight Pass, and it's a tremendous platform. They have, tens of thousands of hours of fights that you've never seen before that were incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And plus all these up-and-coming shows like ours, there's a whole handful of them across the United States that they show the up-and-coming talent. And then they have, all the old Pride fights, all the old IFL fights, all the old, Strike Force and WFL and WEC. And, it's just deep. Crazy.
Yeah.
And they're fights that have guys that you've seen forever that you know, but it was before they had an opportunity to fight for the UFC. So they really wanted to drive that subscription, right? We want people to subscribe to, and for UFC Fight Pass, you can go on UFCFightPass.com and subscribe. And it's well worth it. It's $10 a month. It's well worth the investment in it. I watch quite a few fights now that it's on. But the other thing they wanted us to do is they wanted us to build local talent or build talent regionally.
Yeah.
They're looking for us to build guys that go on to fight in the UFC. And obviously, like I said, we had John Jones, and there's nobody better, in my opinion, as a fighter.
Agreed.
In the history of the world. I think John's legitimately one of the best fighters I've ever seen in any type of combat sport, and it was awesome to have him. And he's been nothing but a real good guy to us. He came back and did an appearance, and just been nothing but a gentleman to us. And it was awesome to have him. We wish we would have could have kept him for a few more fights.
Well, it would have been nice.
Yeah. Well, what I think is perfect is like you said, that's exactly what they're looking for right now. And so this couldn't be happening at a better time. And as I was going through some of the fights and just taking a look, again, not to give him just a shout out because he's here, but there was a lot of talent that I saw up and down that fight card that I said, these guys are close. These guys are really close. And this is going to be a great platform for them to really put on a show where eyes will get to see their talent come alive, because we see it whether it's Dana White looking for a fight, whether it's Contender Series, which one of you guys fought on, or two of you guys.
Two of the guys that are on the next card have fought on.
Yeah, so two of you guys fought on. And then you have like the Tough Series, which not sure if any of you guys fought on the Tough Series. I think De La Cruz was an alternate at one point for Tough 20, maybe. So for the Ultimate Fighter, so some guys were really, really close. And I met Rick, had an opportunity to sort of just talk a little shop with him when you guys came in, and obviously you could tell he knew what he was doing. But when I saw the fights that were put on, I said, man, he's putting me in a tough position to pick some of these fights on fight day because they are so well matched. And I think they're matched in a way that you get to see the guys show off that talent, which is huge. So I did want to go into that a little bit, just in terms of, like, for me, the first one that I saw that really jumped out to me when I was looking at the fights was Sage Philippe in his fight with Sanad Armadi. Was it Armadi? I've heard it said both ways.
Pronounce it, so
yeah,
I'm gonna go with yours.
I've heard it said 2-3 different ways, but I'm sure he'll clear that up for us if it's not Armadi. And the first thing I thought of when I saw that fight was, like, first of all, these guys are massive welterweights in different ways.
Yeah.
Where one of them, in Sage, has fought as high as 185.
He looks like he's
a
Dante
tank.
Hightower. You see him, like he's just
the man's an absolute tank.
Yeah.
But not to be confused with Sanad, who is long.
He's like 6'4".
Yeah, he is
big, tall
long,
guy.
length. He is massive. Even if he were to fight at 185, he would still be taller than most guys there. So you have two contrasting styles. What came into making that fight, that matchup?
So there's a few different things, right? I mean, one of the things that, before I get into that matchup specifically, one thing that I think we did years ago that made us different than a lot of the other shows is we tried to put together a lot of fights that people would look at and say, I don't know who's going to win this fucking fight. Like, this is going to be a great fight. Like, regardless of what their records are, regardless of where they are in their career, we tried to match fights that either guy could win, right? Like, there was some amount, like, you see so many other shows, and I'm not going to call anyone out specifically, right? But you see so many shows that kind of take that boxing model where you've got a guy that's, 3-0, and he fights a guy that's, I don't know, very, very lopsided, right?
Yes, where you can just, you can take it to the bank who's going to win.
Yeah, and we see a lot of that, and I know, there's some other good fights that people are putting on too, so that's not to say that, every fight for us is going to be amazing and every fight for everybody else sucks. But one thing that we really tried to do is, with our bigger fights, we try to match, fights that could go either way. And in one thing that's beautiful about the UFC's model is they've made it all right to lose.
Yeah.
Like, you see so many guys in the UFC that, they're not all undefeated fighters.
No.
You see guys that, like Billy Goff is a good example. He's a guy that is fighting, he's headlining a Contender Series. I believe he's like 7-2, I think is what his record was. And, so he took the tough road. He fought some tough guys. He lost a couple fights, but ultimately he's going to be headlining a contender series. So you don't necessarily have to fight easy opponents until you get your shot. You can be a guy that lost a couple times and you still get there. So